How's it going here? Welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to give you a quick update on my experience with the Sony Xperia 1 Mark III. In this video, I'll be focusing on connectivity. I've been getting a lot of questions about how's the LTE performance, do I get 5G, all that stuff with the international model that I have here in the US. I also have been getting questions around battery life as well as camera and if I'm getting any overheating issues, because Sony is notorious for overheating and this has a Snapdragon 888 and a lot of people have been having overheating problems in other phones with that same chipset. So I'll address all those questions here in this video. So let's start off with connectivity first. So like I said, this is the international model. It is not the US model. So I'm not sure if it has all the bands for 5G and all that stuff. All I know is that just like other international phones that I've gotten, like the Mi 11 Ultra and all that, even though they claim 5G, it may not have the bands for the US. So I'm not getting 5G here in the San Francisco Bay Area in California on T-Mobile. So I'm using US Mobile and I'm using the T-Mobile service through US Mobile. And with that same service on other phones that are meant to be used here in the US with all the 5G bands, I do get 5G on those phones on that same service. I'm not getting it on phones like the Mi 11 Ultra, and I'm not getting it here on the Xperia 1 Mark III. So I'm not getting any kind of 5G connectivity, but I do get LTE fine, and LTE speeds have been pretty much on par with what I've been expecting and what I get with my other phones. So if we look here, I've done some speed tests. You can see some of the results here. LTE is not super impressive here on T-Mobile. Just depends on your area, and it's been improving with the rollout of 5G. Their LTE is actually even improved. You can see here I'm getting maybe about 20, 30, 40 megs down with maybe, 6, maybe I've gotten actually 10 to 12 megs up. So that's in other tests before I kind of deleted those, but you can see here the speeds that I get in these tests. These are pretty much indicative of what I typically get here on T-Mobile in my area on LTE. This also supports Wi-Fi 6, and so I'm getting pretty much on par Wi-Fi speeds. I'm getting 400 plus megabits per second down, and I'm paying for 40 megs up, and that's what I'm getting on Wi-Fi through my cable or internet provider. So Wi-Fi speeds are fine, LTE speeds are fine. I'm just not getting any kind of 5G. Also, connectivity, speaking of calls. So call quality has been okay. I haven't really had any problems with call quality. I don't see any kind of Wi-Fi calling options here, so if you actually look into here, we can go into kind of like internet and network and T-Mobile. There is voice over LTE, so that's an option here. So that seems to be working. I'm not having any problems with that. I don't explicitly see any kind of Wi-Fi calling options. So if I went into here like Wi-Fi, I'm not seeing any kind of Wi-Fi calling explicitly. So that may not be working properly here, or it may not be an option here. So if you need Wi-Fi calling, that may be a problem for you. If you do have this model, let me know if you got Wi-Fi calling. I'll try to check it out to see if there's any way to enable that, but I'm not seeing it here in my usage right now, and it's been fine. You can see I have some bars indoors, not the strongest signal, but I haven't had any kind of call quality issues using this device so far on T-Mobile here in the US. Next, we can go through maybe some battery life. So I've got some screenshots on battery life and kind of explain to you what that's been. You can see how I've been using the phone, because I shouldn't really have to say this, but as a disclaimer, battery life, as we all know, depends on how each individual person uses it. So it could vary, but this is based on my usage in my area. I'm mostly on Wi-Fi. I have a 9 to 5 job, 5 days a week. I'm always working from home, so mostly on Wi-Fi, but I do have mixed Wi-Fi and mobile usage here. And so you can see from the very beginning, I'm getting about 4 hours. I got about just over 4 hours of screen on time with my first battery cycle here. And this is when I was doing a lot of camera comparisons, so you can see heavy on camera usage. You can see Photography Pro there, you can see Cinema Pro, some YouTube and social media mixed usage. So this is when I was going hard on the camera comparisons. That lasted me just over a day, and again, I had 4 hours of screen on time. Similarly, I got another 3.5 hours of screen on time with about a day off the charger, and that's again still doing my camera comparisons there, so still going pretty hard. 4.5 hours you can see here on this day, still doing camera comparisons, so you can kind of see the theme. Heavy camera usage, I still get around 3.5 to 4.5 hours of screen on time with a day or less of total charge time off the charger. A little more mixed usage, I'm getting almost 5 hours of screen on time. This day you can see 4 hours 52 minutes. And this is more typical usage. You don't see a lot of camera. There's just some camera. Heavy on just basic usage around, watching stuff on HBO Max, YouTube, social media, using chat, all that stuff. So that was about a little bit more battery life with that, without a lot of that camera usage, almost 5 hours of screen on time, but still 1 day of battery. You can see here 3.5 hours on this day with just over a day off the charger. Again, doing more camera comparisons. So you can see the theme. If I'm using the camera heavy, that's about 3.5 to 4 hours of screen on time. More basic usage, typical usage, you can see 5 hours to this time 5.5 hours of screen on time with still a day off the charger. So that's a theme. This is pretty much a 1-day battery. It's 4,500 milliamp hour capacity battery. So for me, and I'm pretty sure for most people, with the 4K display and you're using the 120 hertz refresh rate, this is going to be a 1-day battery. You're not going to get much more than a day off the charger. And then, of course, how much screen on time, if that matters to you, will depend on how you use your phone. I'm getting anywhere between averaging 4.5 to 5.5 hours right now screen on time, but no more than a day off the charger. And so I can keep going through this. You can see here 5.5 hours on this day. You can see the theme going, still 1 day off the charger. Typical use, a lot of web browsing, social media, YouTube, all that stuff. So it pretty much settled in at about 5.5 hours of screen on time with still 1 day, just over a day off the charger. With just basic typical usage for me. So that's been my battery life, just pretty much 1 day off the charger, anywhere between 4.5 to 5.5 hours of screen on time with my personal usage there. This does support wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. If that's something important to you, the One Mark III does have that. So that's kind of been my experience with battery and all that stuff. So lastly, going into more kind of around overheating and the camera use. Xperias and Sonys have a long history of overheating, especially when shooting video, 4K video with its camera. They'll typically prompt and push up some kind of message that says it's overheating, it's going to shut down the camera, or temporarily let it cool off. They've always done that through their phones, and so this has always been a concern amongst Sony Xperia phone owners. And now that they have the Snapdragon 888 chipset here, which has been overheating in some other phones like the S21 Ultra, although in my S21 Ultra I have not had that problem. I know other people have. It's pretty much, I guess, a fairly common issue with this new chipset. It runs pretty hot, I guess. And on the Xperia 1 Mark III, I am getting some overheating warnings. So you can see here in the background, I was taking some photos. So this wasn't even just shooting video. This is when I was doing my camera comparisons outside in probably 80+ degree California heat. And you can see I got a high temperature warning. And I'll go through this because there are some different warnings that you kind of get here. So this is just saying some apps and services are unavailable because it's too hot. So basically this kind of wanted to stop some of the usage and put it on pause. On this one, same kind of warning message. Again, you can see here I've got the Camera Pro app in the background. So I'll just shooting photos and it happened again. It says device has cooled down now, so I can still use it. So that's another variation on that temperature warning. It just needed to cool down. You can see here, same thing, same warning, high temperature, device has cooled down. Again, I was just taking pictures here. You can see it in the background. On this one, same message, device has cooled down. Again, just taking pictures. Another overheating warning, again, another instance of it. Same message, it's cooled down. This one I was actually doing a recording test. You can see in the background I was just recording video indoors. I had this on a tripod steady, so you didn't have to stabilize the phone or anything like that. I was just sitting on a tripod, just continuously shooting video. Unfortunately, I forgot about how far I got, but it eventually shut down the camera. So this is recording 4K video indoors at about 70 degrees Fahrenheit or so. And then you can see it eventually shut down the camera. It says it's going to turn it off. Camera will now turn off temporarily to cool down. So this is when it actually shut off while recording video. So that can possibly happen. And you can see here, same kind of another high temperature warning. It says some apps and services are unavailable due to temperature rise. So you get messages that saying, it got hot, but it cooled down and you can still use it. So it doesn't stop you from using it. You have messages that says, no, we're going to have to stop using some apps while we cool the phone down. But I am getting some heating problems, so I just wanted to report that to you. It's not really affecting how I use the phone that much because every time it's overheated and it says it's cooled down relatively quickly. So it's not like I'm waiting 5-10 minutes, half an hour for it to cool down. Generally, you'll have the message. Sometimes I just have to wait for a few seconds and I can use it again. Other times it just shows a message just saying, hey, it's getting too hot, but I can still use it. So it really hasn't negatively affected how I use the device, but I have gotten several of those warnings like you saw. So I just wanted to bring that up and bring that to your attention because it is something I'm experiencing. So, and I know I've been getting a lot of questions on all these things. So that's kind of been my experience around connectivity using the international model here in the US. That's kind of what my battery life has been. And yes, I am getting some overheating here on the One Mark III. So that's kind of all I really want to cover here in this video. If there's anything else, other questions you have about the One Mark III, I'm more than happy to answer it. If you leave it in the comments, I'll try to answer what I can. Anything else you want to see on the One Mark III, leave a comment and maybe I'll try to make some of those videos as well. But there you go, just a quick update on the One Mark III, your questions answered. So again, leave any other questions or comments down below. And again, thanks for watching.